You recognize that sound? Yes, it's the sound of safari. I'm Adriane Berg, and this is The Ageless Traveler. As promised, we are going to Africa. And when are we going? We're going right now. We're going with the head honchos, the creators. I call them creators. They probably call themselves business owners, but I call them the creators of Vumbua Africa. We're going to find out what Vumbua means in just a moment. Claire Minchin, you're going to hear from her first. We're going to speak with Keith Johnston, who actually was born in Zambia, lived in Botswana, and we will speak about conservation in Africa and what tourism means to that as well. But first, we want to get into the bones of what's going on in Vumbua. So, Claire, thank you for being with us.
Thank you for inviting me.
So I promised, what does Vumbua mean? Because it's such a beautiful word.
Oh, well, it's the best title ever. It means Discover Africa in Swahili.
Now, of course, we all want to do that. And I think that when we picture that, for those of us who's never been, we're going to be thinking about animals. We're going to think about the big five, a safari, a jeep. This is what comes to mind. But you do so much more than that. You have a real big swath over the continent in where you bring people. So just give us an idea of the territory where we can discover through Vumbua.
Well, we've started out really small, but we have contacts in many countries across Africa. So depending on the requirements of additional need that you might have, I mean, we can go to most parts. So South Africa, Kenya, Tanzania, Uganda, Namibia, North Africa. So we have contacts all over and can provide trips, tours, safaris to almost wherever you want to go.
Now, it's very important that people understand your role, because when they think of safari, they often think of a big tour operator, and that's wonderful, terrific, where people 30, maybe even 40 sometimes, people go together. And it's a name you know, particularly for the U.S. traveler, and you go. It's terrific. They really don't think about an unplanned trip that they plan with someone. And that's what I want to bring out about what you do, because it's a service that not everybody gets. They either think it's a travel agent that and links them up with a pre-planned tour, or they go directly these days, often through the internet, to a pre-planned tour. But what you do is different. So explain that to everyone.
Right. Well, the focus for us has been the older traveller, people with disabilities, multi-generational travel. So we keep our trips personal. We keep them individual. We've got a kind of a maximum of about 10 that we would take, but we prefer to go for no more than about 6 or 8. So we might be looking for a trip for a couple, or it might be for a family, older children and the grandparents. So it's that sort of focus. But key to us is, what is it you want to do? What is it you want to see? What are your needs? What are you looking for? What might make that trip work better for you than a big trip? And if you're an older traveller or you have additional disability needs, then we actually try to drill right down to that so that we get it right for each person that's on that trip.
Now, of course, this explanation makes it very clear why Vumbua Africa is one of the first to be recognized through the Ageless Tourism Institute, because it is not cookie cutter in any way, shape, or form. One of the things, Claire, that you may know is that the Ageless Traveler podcast has a mission. The mission is that we never stop traveling and we make lifelong travel easy. When you are faced with something as important, so bucket listy, as going on a safari or going to Africa, and all you've got are terrific, wonderful, but pre-planned tours, you say to yourself, wait a minute, this day, my husband, my friend is going to have to sit in the hotel because they're just not going to be able to do that. Or the other way, it's planned for the older, mature person, and you're a mountain climber. And you say, I don't know, I could do a lot more than that in a day. So that's the difference here. The individuality of the tourist is taken into account. And that's can only be done really if there's a hands-on discussion. Of course, in our show notes, you'll see how to and also on our website, agelesstraveler.com, you'll see how to reach. It's be in writing. You don't have to take this down. But how do we reach you, Claire? How do we actually find you?
Oh, well, we have a website, so you can look at the website. You can contact us through that website, and you would get an individual response, email response, just asking what it is you're looking for, whether you know which, because often people will just say, "Oh, we've heard of you. We want to go to Africa." But that is huge. So, we like to try and ask the right questions at the beginning. Do you have any idea where you would like to go? Have you been to Africa before? And so we can also be found on LinkedIn, of course. So that's our starting point is just starting that conversation like you would start any conversation about, what is it you want to do?
Yeah. So if you have been thinking about a big trip like that, and you're saying, well, we're a multi-ability family or we're a multi-ability couple, which means one could go a little faster, the other one could go a little slower, or we want to bring our kids. We're an extremely active family. We've been mountain biking all over the Northwest, so we don't want to be sitting around. We don't need all those rest stops. Get on the bus, get off the bus. We don't need that. We want something more active. This is the point. This is the whole point of the Ageless Travelers, to allow people to pick and choose what's right for them through a conversation, because they don't always know what is great. Nevertheless, before we take our break, Claire, let's whet our appetites here. You do have some most popular trips where you find people say to you, this is where I want to go. What have you found empirically to be where people want to go and that you seem to plan for them there the most?
Well, South Africa is obviously a key one for many people. It's what they think of first. It's the Table Mountain, it's the penguins, it's the waterfront, and there is so much to do there. So that's obviously often what people think of first. Kenya, Botswana, Zambia are all particularly places that we have wonderful safaris that we know can be made to be accessible to most people. We've got vehicles that allow you to get on and off much more easily than clambering up and things like that. So yes, we have, and Botswana is an amazing country to go to. We have contacts there. You can get, if you had a wheelchair, you can get out on the Okavango Delta by boat, because we can get the chairs onto a boat. So you can do whatever you want to do.
Oh, this is so exciting. And when we come back, we're going to talk about the Big Five, which is what people mostly think about, and give us some advice. I will pretend, I'm not pretending, I'm going, about what I'd like to see. And you can ask me a couple of those questions, and people will see on the spot how this is done. So don't you guys go anywhere. Would you like to make your own balcony, like the kind that you love to luxuriate at a hotel? Well, you can experience that luxury feeling at home with Balconista. Balconista is an ingeniously simple but effective solution to having a small patio or a small porch. It features exquisite design with chairs and even a way to put out your champagne bucket. Yep, it really turns any small area into a party space. I use it in my own home. I discovered it when I was at a special convention for hotels. And yet I said, you know what? This is ingenious. I can bring this home. The assembly is a breeze. And honestly, I do not have enough space in my condo to have a big party. But when I add Balconista to the balcony, I do. How do you find out about it? Well, you simply go to agelesstraveler.com, look at our products and services page, and you can read all about it, or simply go to agelesstraveler.com/contact, and we will send you information. And now we're back with Claire Minchin, and we're going to also be speaking with Keith Johnston, because a lot of people understand that tourism in some places is simply overbooked. They get to the place of their dreams, and I'm going to mention Venice here, and they spend 3 days online trying to wait to get into the places of their dreams. But this isn't the case here, but still, Africa is booming. So you have to be considerate of that. And safari is one of those hot places. And we're here with Claire, who brings people to these safaris. You mentioned Kenya, you mentioned Tanzania, the places, Zambia, where people go. What are you finding with that? What questions would you ask me if I said, I really wanted to go to the Big Five? I don't care when it is during the year. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to see or how I'm going to see it. How would we put something together where I'm not just waiting in line as if I were at a zoo?
Well, I was going to say that is key, isn't it? To find the part of the country where there are safaris where you are, potentially either already in the game park or near to the game park, so that you're not spending hours on end driving from, your beautiful hotel or wherever you're staying to get to the gates to then queue up to get in. So we have people that we already know, so we know where they're sited. And obviously later on we talk with Keith, but he has that hands-on experience. He has been all over, so he has a lot more knowledge of where you go and not have to be in long lines of people queuing up to see the Big Five.
Before we go further, I always think, the Big Five. Tell people what the Big Five are.
Lion,
yes.
Of course, the big one. Leopard, which is much more rare to find. The rhino, of course, is a huge one, and the elephant and the giraffe. I mean, there was just so many. I mean, the Big Five are just part of it. The bird life is phenomenal. I have never seen so many birds in a couple of hours when I've been out on safari.
Birding safaris is another thing for the mature traveler.
Yes, yeah.
Now, let's go back to culture. If I were your client at this moment, I would definitely tell you I want to meet the people. I'm very interested in seeing the animals. There's no doubt about that. I really want to get out and understand Africa. But you can't understand anything if you don't have the cultural experiences. So are there festivals that you would look at, or particular village experiences, volunteering experiences? What have been some of your favorites?
Well, I think for me, it's actually going to a lodge somewhere and actually finding that all the people who are working there are local people, that they are employing young people in their catering trades and they're training them up to be chefs and, related staff to create that internal job market. So that's something. I mean, I have been, and I was waited on by a young lady and she had her head right down and I thought, she's not very. And then I realised she'd only just started. She'd come from the village. She was only just starting to learn. And once I'd spoken to her and she got her to smile, that was amazing. And it was the beginning of her journey into a career. We've been into other places where we've had some amazing food, and it's all been prepared by local people who are being trained through the company to actually take on careers in that business. The cultural tours that I have got involved in, I think they often say, I want to go to see a village. We've been to places where they have arrangements with the local leaders, because if you go driving through a village and you're dishing out pencils and sweeties and whatnot, every child that should be in school is probably at the side of the road waiting for pencils and sweeties. So They have arrangements whereby, you can support the villages in other ways that are arranged with the leaders. So, you can get tours, obviously, to go and do hands-on, but, you have to be very mindful of what it is you're doing and that you're not interfering with their day-to-day life and their culture. So those are just some of the examples.
Well, before we take a break, I do want to clue our listeners into something, which is what makes this show, I think, different from other shows, and that is volunteering. When you buy a week and you volunteer for a week, particularly in Africa or India or places where the children don't have westernized lifestyle, you're showing them something, and then you're disappearing off the face of the earth. And so there's been a tremendous amount of criticism of organized volunteers because it's not real. And what can be worse is some children will bond with you and then they never see you again. So people have good hearts and they really want to do something. And Africa is one of their places they'd like to do it in, but they make mistakes for their aftermath of what they're doing. And this is what you're saying, Claire. So
we have very clear. When you go to most of these lodges, they will have up pictures and information about the local, hospitals or medical centres or schools that they are working towards, and they will have ways in which they can encourage you to support those, but without being interfering. And it might not be quite as hands-on as people would like, but it is by far the best way of supporting what is going on locally.
Yeah, I was very touched in Cambodia by a group called New Hope, and I thought, I'm going to help these kids and so on. You know what the best help was? I send them a check every month. I put myself on there, send a checklist, and that's the best help I give them, and let the people who know them in the culture take care. So when we come back, we're going to be speaking to Keith now about some of the other issues that people have brought up to me, conservation and so on, over tourism in Africa. But I do want you to go. I'm going to tell you all about our volunteer ambassador program. For those of you who would like to do something, and do it right. Don't you guys go anywhere. If you share our passion for volunteering or volunteering, AmeriCorps Seniors is the place to start. And please join our Facebook salon and become an Ageless Ambassador. To join the salon and discover more about the Ageless Ambassador program and AmeriCorps Seniors, simply go to agelesstraveler.com. You'll see the button that says Join our Facebook salon. Click it and you're there. And don't forget to visit the Ageless Traveler website for more information about volunteer programs. Consider checking out the resources that we have right here on the show notes, like Charity Navigator, Charity Watch, Give Generously, Guide Star, Volunteer Match, and of course AARP's Create the Good. You can find all the details on the show notes. And if you have questions about this or anything related to travel or volunteering, don't forget to go to our fan page and record your questions. We might feature them on the show. See the show notes for the fan page link. And now we are back. And we're going to switch gears and we're going to switch voice registers a little bit because sometimes it takes a baritone, as one of my feminist friends said. I'll tell you that story in a moment, where that line comes from. I love it. Sometimes it takes a baritone, but we have a baritone with us. We have Keith Johnston, and he is the co-creator of Vumbua. So we talked a little bit about the fact that you're originally African, grew up there in Zambia, and you must have seen incredible changes in terms of the amount of tourism, the type of tourism, and also the sometimes negative effects. But it's being looked at now. So those people who say, I just don't want to go and destroy the land, what do you say about conservation and what's going on there through your eyes?
Well, Africa has changed a lot, and there's a lot of commercial travel in Africa, which does a lot of harm because, there's a lot of animal petting that goes, especially in South Africa, that goes on, which we don't condone. We're very anti animal petting. We support a lot of conservation groups, and we only deal with companies where nature is very important to them, and the fauna and flora is important to them, and they also look at over tourism, which we don't partake in either. We have very selected lodges that will only do so many safaris a day and so many people a day, just to keep things natural as best as they can.
Hunting is an interesting thing because there are sustainable hunting safaris, and then they have what is Claire mentioned the rhinos, which is simply illegal and cruel. But does that go on in terms of unregulated? Is that still a problem that we have to watch out for?
I know people are they're probably going to come down to me like a ton of bricks, but we don't even support hunting, because when you go on a hunting trip, what do you want? You want the biggest lion, you want the biggest buffalo. They don't go for the smallest or the sick. So we don't condone hunting. But, it's a necessity because the animals have to be culled.
Mm-hmm.
But saying that, we would rather that the conservationists do the culling and sell off the skins and the whatever it is that, the byproducts that come from it.
So let's go the other way, because there are a lot of people who would like to be part of that, just as they'd like to volunteer and help some of the folks or the children or the older adults there. They also like to help the animals. So if somebody says to you, Keith, what I really want to do is I really want to help animal rescue, or guess what? I'm a veterinarian. Where should I go to help out for a week or two? Can that be arranged?
Yeah, it can be. We've got a client in South Africa that has a game ranch, and they do volunteer work where once a year you can go out there and you can actually work with them out in the bush. You can do tagging, you can do counts, you can do all sorts of things. They offer a variety of things you can do, volunteer work you can do. I mean, that's the only company we deal with that does volunteering. It's not that popular anymore because people have found that it doesn't really work, because people are coming and going. They're not staying there, for long periods of time. So, but there are, like I said, we do deal with somebody in South Africa who does volunteering.
Now, when we come back, I want to go into the lighter side of Africa, the fun side, with Claire. Because you did mention in answering the questions about lodges, both of you mentioned the word lodges. So I want to talk about accommodations, what people could expect, the different levels, because like anything else in the whole world, you get what you pay for, and food. So don't you guys go anywhere. What are you doing between March 29th and April 12th, 2025? Are you going on safari? Well, we are. Please come with us on our very first Ageless Traveler trip. I will make sure that you see everything that's on your bucket list. We're going with the very famous Colette Tours, one of the oldest tour operators in the United States. They know us, they respect us, and they provide for us everything that we need. Yes, we are going to Kenya. We will see the city of Nairobi. We're going to the Serengeti. We will see the Big Five. We will also have adventures of a lifetime. If you have been studying safari, or even if you have gone on many safaris, this is something really different. So how do you find out about it and get your special discounts because you're an ageless traveler? Very simple. Go to agelesstraveler.com. That's our website, agelesstraveler.com. Take a look at featured trips. Get the details by clicking right there. You can do everything from inquire, get your question answered, to book right away so that you're going with us. It is a terrific, terrific tour. And by the way, you can also go to the Masai Mara on an optional pre-trip tour. There's a lot more to it than that, because there's yet more opportunity if you have longed to trek with the gorillas in Uganda. Yep, we can make that happen too. So please take a look at agelesstraveler.com, featured travel, and go on safari with us. And now we're back. We're going to switch over to Claire, but I did promise I would tell everybody about that baritone. I had a friend who, if I gave you her name, you would all know it. But she was a leader in feminism, a leader in the 1960s. And her plumbing went out. And she said to me, Adriane, I'm calling my husband. Why? So he could call the plumber and get it fixed. And I said to her, wait a minute. Isn't that just the opposite of being shouldn't you call the plumber and take care of all that? And this is what she said to me. Well, sometimes it takes a baritone. So I never forgot that in the rest of my life. So sometimes when I want to deal with something like this morning, I said my husband, because sometimes I know it takes a baritone. So you don't always have to be on the hook. But thanks, Claire, for listening through that one. Accommodations. You mentioned the word lodge. I'm not even sure I know exactly what you mean by lodge. And what levels of lodges are there? Is it like hotels where you get 4 stars, 5 stars? What can we expect?
Oh yeah, you can have you can have anything from a tent in the middle of the bush to a 5-star accommodation set around grounds, or hotels as well. So you can have almost anything. I mean, you could have a tree house up in a tree, or you can have your own plunge pool with a double bedroom and a balcony and a patio area and everything that you'd have in any other city. So, but key for me is always if you've got the environment, choose somewhere where you can chill and see what's going on outside, because
from where you are,
yes, where you
without
are.
the jeeps. Yep.
And that also it works so well for people who perhaps need rest breaks between their trips, who perhaps don't want to go out on safari every single day. But if you choose accommodation which looks out over the plains, you don't know what you're going to see. You could see all sorts. If you choose somewhere which overlooks a waterhole, I mean, mornings and evenings, you don't have to go anywhere, and you could see any animal that needs to come down for a drink. So yes, I mean, like you say, you do get what you pay for, but you can have a safari where they put up the tent, you stay overnight with a fire pit and eat outside around the campfire, and then the next day everything's packed up, taken on ahead, and set up somewhere else. So you can have that sort of level of under canvas experience, or as I say, the 5-star. So.
Yes, I'm fascinated by 2 things. First is glamping. I do love to live in tents, but I don't like to put them up, and I like a nice mattress. And it might be an age thing, I don't know, but I think I would have liked a nice mattress when I was 12 also. So glamping, I know, is a big possibility. But my biggest question for my own self, and I'll leave you with this one before we talk about the food, is how often do you move? Let us say you have a 10-day safari, or even a longer one, a 2-week safari. Are you generally setting it up so that everyone is in the same lodge for the entire trip, or are we moving around, or is it depending on who you're talking to?
It depends on what you want to do, which is why we don't have, people say, can you send us an itinerary that we said, well, we don't have itineraries like that. We arrange it for the person. So if somebody says they want 6 days in one place, then 6 days in one place is what they would get. I think standardly people tend to stay about 3 days or so, and then they'll move around. But it depends on where you are, the distances between them, whether you want to be doing long drives. Some people find sitting in a vehicle for very long lengths of time quite challenging. So you can literally do whatever you want. We've had people, someone's a paraplegic, they'll sort of say, well, even in my wheelchair, I can't sit in a vehicle for that length of time. So you organise it accordingly and set it up for what they want to do. But
now let's go the other way. You take older adults. What do I mean by that? Anybody over 60, 70, 80, 90. And they're very active. I belong to the Coachella Valley Hiking Club. I think they would want to be walking as much as they can. It's just the opposite. They have so much energy and they have so much stamina. So that's another thing to remember. Many of the trips, particularly the safaris, that are geared to the older adults are just too slow. What would you suggest with
well, you can do a walking safari. You can go somewhere. You can be in a vehicle one day, out sort of at 5 o'clock in the morning, looking at the beginnings of the day, or you can be out walking with a guide, and do a safari on foot. You can do whatever you want to do. Depending on where you go, you can bike. You could go up Kilimanjaro. You can.
Many friends have.
Yes, indeed.
So let's, before we take a little bit of break, go back and talk a little bit about food. I want to talk about pricing. there's no such thing as a single price because you are creating new itineraries, right? So are you asking the person, what's your budget? Or are you suggesting a budget after you hear what they have to say? In other words, what comes first, the budget or the trip plan?
Well, you have to ask the person really. We'd usually say, what are you looking at? Are you looking at 3 stars or 5 stars? We'll have people that sort of say, oh, we have 5 stars. And then they'll say, oh, we want to go to whichever country. And you'll say, well, that country is probably more expensive than another one. You might put something together and they'd say, oh, no, actually, that's more than we want to pay. Can we go down one level? Or we can, you can set it to whatever. And mostly when you are on a safari like that, you're on an inclusive price, because obviously you're out in an area which is sort of self-contained. So your meals would be included in the price generally.
Right. So you kind of know going in. Right. We're going to take a little bit of a break. When we come back, I want to go back to Keith. I do want to talk about food. I mean, he himself grew up with African food. Zambia food is different than Botswana and certainly South African food. But there might be some food restrictions that the folks are planning this have. And I will ask how that's handled and your favorite foods. Don't you guys go anywhere. Here at Ageless Traveler, we're very interested in breaking down barriers to traveling. And one of the things that you told us is that if you are a caregiver, you find it very difficult to get away for respite care yourself and very difficult to navigate those airports, cruise ships, and any kind of tourism with the person that you love. Well, we fixed that for you. We have a free ebook, The Caregiver's Travel Guide. It might be the first in history, and it is absolutely free. Please go to caregiverstravelguide.com and get your free download of this remarkable book. You can travel without your care recipient with peace of mind, travel with your care recipient stress-free. You will learn exactly what you need to do to navigate the tough spots, everything from hydration for both of you to the way you should be packing, and of course your legal rights, your insurance needs, and all the questions answered that you had nobody to ask. And that is the Caregiver's Travel Guide. You'll find it free of charge to everyone. Caregiverstravelguide.com. Well, we are back. We're speaking with the co-creators here of Vumbua Africa. It means discover. And it's a very specialized kind of a service that they provide for people of all abilities, and specifically the toughest when there are multi-abilities in a family. It can simply mean that you have older adults and younger and children. It can simply mean that you have a couple, just 2 people or 2 friends, and one can walk at a little bit of a slower pace than the other, or it can mean that there's a full board issue of equipment that is needed. And yet, everybody wants to be together. They want to have the time of their lives. So one of those things where people have different abilities, I'm going to say, is food. One person's diabetic. One person can eat anything there is. One person's vegan. The other one loves meat. I mean, my goodness, these are the days of individual choice. So, Keith, if you've actually lived in Africa, what's your favorite cuisine? Let's start with that, and then we'll talk about the health issues about it.
Well, if you're talking, African food, then I would say pap is probably one of the nicest things you can have, which is maize meal. You can have it with, you can have it with chicken. You can have it with anything. It goes with virtually anything, and it's eaten in all over Africa. Maize meal is, one of the staple food diets for Africa. They eat a lot of dried fish. They eat. Well, if you're looking in southern Africa or Central Africa, you're looking at mapani worms, which they eat. It's a delicacy.
Well, you always see termites being eaten, particularly by movement.
Yes. Yeah, flying ants you can eat. You can eat them raw or you can eat them fried.
Sounds delicious.
You can eat locust. Also, fried. What else is there?
I have to tell you that my father, who never, I assure you, went to Africa, would eat chocolate-covered ants. This was his favorite crunchy dish. And he got it. It was obviously imported. He got it in delicatessens, which we now call delis. But in those days, they were called delicatessens. And I think it was a German word. But yes, he would get canned chocolate-covered ants. So nothing scares me. I'll put it to you that way.
I would think the chocolate is very Western and the ants are very African. But yes. It's
an interesting thing. Now, what about that health issue? I will bring up Vietnam. I spent a wonderful month in Vietnam, except it is the number one salted food capital of the world. They have a fabulous cuisine, but it's very salty. And so we have that as an issue. And how did we eat? It was not so easy. Is there anything to look out for? And how do you handle someone who says, hey, I'm diabetic?
That's one of the things we ask every time is, what are your allergies? Because a lot of African food can't be eaten because it's all very natural food. And so, if you have allergies, we would recommend you stay away because we can't guarantee, what's in the food.
Yes. It's not a big label like he'll tell you exactly how much potassium is in something. Yeah, it's not labeled food.
Yeah, you can't buy that in a store, so it doesn't have a label on it. So we're not quite sure. Even though they say if you ask them, they might say it doesn't have wheat in it, but we can't guarantee that.
Mm-mm. So let's talk about the cuisine though, because Africa is exploding. One of the things that Claire mentioned. And this is a big up note for me, so I'm very happy to end on this up note, is that tourism, with all of its problems, is bringing a tremendous amount of jobs. As Claire points out, the young lady who never really had work or even the ability to work can now flourish in the hospitality industry. So what's happening with the cuisine? Are restaurants opening? Are they becoming more cosmopolitan? What's going on?
I think you get a bit of. It depends on where you are, and I think you get a bit of both. Last year we were in Zambia, and we were out on the Luangwa River, and they had trained chefs there, that local chefs, and we had a pudding, I think it was, that was made from all local products, and it was really nice. So, African food is getting into the market, but it's more in in your safari areas, in your
touristic areas. Yeah.
Yeah. When you go into the cities, it's very cosmopolitan food, and it has an African flair to it, but it's very much cosmopolitan.
So it's the name, you don't have to worry if you can't get, a hamburger. You'll figure out a way to make that happen for the people who need it. And low salt for the people who need it. Yeah.
Yeah. You go to anywhere in Africa and ask for a hamburger, you'll get a hamburger.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just, that's the way it's become. It's changed a lot in the last 20, 30 years.
It's changing more rapidly than anywhere else in the world because it had a lot of ways to go. I will end with this. The issue of older people. It's interesting in Africa because it's a young country. If you would look at the demographics, you'd see more young people. But the number of people who are living past 60s, 70s, and 80s statistically is growing more rapidly than in westernized countries. There's a real focus now on issues of older adults, which they never even had to worry about before. So now we have that too. So there's a lot of wonderful ways for older adults in the West to reach out to older adults in Africa and make it also part of the trip. It's really a lot of fun to see how the older adult in Africa keeps up the traditions, the costumes, the songs, the music, the dances that would otherwise be lost because it is becoming a cosmopolitan continent, just like everywhere else. So before it gets to look like your local mall, you ought to go. That's my bottom line. So, Claire, before we leave and say goodbye to you guys, tell me what's next. Give me something you're planning for a client right now that really excites you?
At the moment, we're planning a multi-family safari. They're going to Kenya, and they've got adult children, so they're staying in hotels. They've travelled extensively before. He became unwell and hasn't travelled for many years, so they've got family to visit. They're going to the coast, they're going on safari, they're visiting friends in the city. And yeah, it's exciting because we're helping to make it happen. It's something he's wanted to do for his children for a long time. His illness and disability has made him scared. And we are just really hoping that he has a wonderful time.
So this is what I mean by quintessential, never stop traveling, lifelong travel made easy. And I thank both of you so much. I congratulate you for being one of the first to be designated as Ageless Tourism Institute, recognized for your age friendliness, and keep up the good work.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And for everybody else, you know what I'm going to say. Please do look at agelesstraveler.com. It doesn't only have our podcast, it has our blogs. It has wonderful equipment that you may need to make your travels easier over on our curated products page. This is all very important to make it possible for you to travel. And until next time, you know what I'm going to say to you. Never stop traveling.